What's up, everybody? Thank you for jumping on to Steelers to Go, your daily to-go cup of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. I'm Noah Strackbein here every single Monday through Friday. Find me at youtube.com/allsteelerstalk or anywhere you get your podcasts. And today, obviously, we're talking Larry Ogunjobi. The Pittsburgh Steelers inked the 28-year-old to a one-year deal, boosting their defensive line in a move that was very necessary. The Steelers were hoping to have Stephon Tuitt this season. Once he retired, they obviously had to kick it into, we need to find a replacement drive. Larry Ogunjobi from the jump was the best player available by far. He's coming off a 7-sack season with the Cincinnati Bengals. That's a career high for the 28-year-old. And on top of that, he's had 4 good years at the Cleveland Browns. He knows the AFC North. He knows AFC North football. And if you're bringing somebody into the kitchen, they have to expect that it's hot. If you've been here for the last 5 years, you know just how hot it could be. Perfect signing for Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. But that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is where he fits, because that's the biggest question that comes with Larry Ogunjobi. Where will he play, and what will the Steelers' defensive line look like with him in the lineup? Great question. And there's a couple of things to break down here. Let's start with his placement, where he will fit along the defensive line. Everywhere is the simple answer. But where he'll play primarily is certainly defensive end. He's here to replace Stephon Tuitt. He understands that. The Steelers understand that. Everyone should understand that. This is Stephon Tuitt's replacement. The Steelers needed somebody to play with Chris Wormley at the defensive end position to take snaps away from him while also relieving pressure from rookie DeMarvin Leal, because you don't want a third-round pick coming into the NFL and playing 40, 50 snaps a game on occasion in his first year. That's not what the Steelers want. They saw that last year. They saw that last year when Dan Moore Jr. was thrust into the starting lineup and to sit there all year long. They saw that last year with Kendrick Green when he had to play center, and now his entire career is just in a spiral. We have no idea what's going to happen with Kendrick Green. They didn't want that to happen with DeMarvin Leal, rightfully so. And on top of that, it has been alarming how much the Steelers need defensive line depth the last 2 or 3 seasons. There has not been a year where they haven't seen the struggle once players go down. And this is the NFL. Guys get hurt all the time. Every single year, you're going to deal with injuries. That's why the Steelers bring $10 million in cap space into the season for emergency situations. The problem there is that you're not always going to be able to find a Tyson Alualu or a Melvin Ingram or a Trey Turner or a Larry Ogunjobi during the season. Your best bet is to find them now or in August when players start getting cut. Fortunately enough, a deal with the Chicago Bears ended with a release for Ogunjobi after a failed physical. He was back on the market. He was dealing with the foot injury. He seems to be all cleared up, and the Pittsburgh Steelers jumped on the opportunity to sign him. I think that's the best fit for him. I think it's the best fit for the Steelers. He's going to play defensive end. I don't believe he's going to start, and that could change, but I don't think he's going to walk in here as the presumed starter. I think the Steelers are still going to look at Chris Wormley and say, this is your job, just don't lose it. That doesn't mean that Ogunjobi isn't going to play starter reps. It doesn't mean that he's not going to be involved in rotations with Cam Hayward and Tyson Alualu and TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. He's going to play probably just as much, if not more, than Chris Wormley. He's just going to play behind him, if that makes sense. Wormley's a guy that they trust, they believe in, and we've seen that Wormley can be productive. He is a great rotation piece, one of the best rotation pieces in football, actually. Chris Wormley will get you pressures. He will get you sacks. The problem is he'll get 13 pressures and 7 sacks, and then the rest of the time he's kind of just chilling there. He's doing his best, but he's not making big plays happen. Ogunjobi is a guy that could step in here and fill that gap. If he's playing 35 snaps a game and Wormley's playing 35 snaps a game, that is a great rotation for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ogunjobi is also a guy that could come in here and boost the run defense, which was very, very, very weak in 2021. Now has an opportunity to be better. Ogunjobi's a guy that could play defensive end in the roles that Wormley couldn't, in the roles that Stephon Tuitt did well. He could come in here and be a run stuffer. He could come in here and be a bigger body. He could come in here and play goal line. He could come in here and add pass rush reps when Wormley isn't making things happen. It's a great fit for Ogunjobi and Chris Wormley and DeMarvin Leal. It allows all three of them to work hand in hand while taking pressure off the rookie, allowing him to develop, letting Chris Wormley be Chris Wormley without too much on his shoulders, because that only leads to bad things, especially in the eyes of everybody watching, and lets Ogunjobi come in here, fill a role, be productive, and still have a place on a football team, a pretty prominent place on a football team. That's not the only place he'll play, though. Ogunjobi is known to be a wrecker in the middle of the defensive line. He's not going to play a lot of nose. Tyson Alualu and Monty Adams hold that spot down quite well. And unless somebody gets hurt, there's really no need to remove those two from the middle of the field to put Ogunjobi there. The Steelers have a lot of faith in Monty Adams. They have a ton of faith in Tyson, obviously. But Monty's a guy that came in here last season, proved himself. He fits well on the defense. And truthfully, the Steelers don't play a ton of base package where Monty Adams and Tyson Alualu have to be there. If both of those guys can play 2 reps a series every 4 downs, that's a great time for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's exactly what they're looking for. Come in here, stuff the run. Monty Adams is a phenomenal pass rusher for a nose tackle. Get to the quarterback maybe, and then unless you need them again, spend most of the time on the sideline. That's fine. And for a 35-year-old Tyson Alualu, that should be just what he's looking for. Ogunjobi's not going to fill that role. He's not going to take away their reps to play nose tackle. There's just no need for it. What he will do, though, is he'll play defensive tackle. Isaiah Loudermilk is going to take on a much bigger role in 2022. This is going to be the year where he starts to develop himself into the piece that either plays to replace Cam Hayward eventually or plays to just be that dominant filler for as long as the Steelers need him to be. But this is going to be the season that they throw him into that role. And they say, you're going to take on a pretty big challenge. He bulked himself up. He looks good. It's hard to judge defensive linemen during mini camps and OTAs. But for the most part, you felt like the confidence was there that Isaiah Loudermilk was going to make that year 2 jump. The Steelers need that year 2 jump. He's going to play a very big role in 2022. We obviously know who Cam Hayward is and what Cam Hayward is capable of. And you never, ever take snaps away from Cam Hayward. I don't care how old he is. The man has defined father time for a long, long time, and hopefully will continue to do so this season. You're not going to take anything away from Cam Hayward. You're not even going to think about it. But Ogunjobi's a guy that could come in here to say, hey, look at Cam, you need a rep off? I'm going to go in there. Isaiah Loudermilk, you need a rep off? I'm going to go in there. Ogunjobi's a guy that could switch up the defense because the Steelers love to move guys around. They love guys that could play multiple positions, stand in multiple spots on the field. That's why Melvin Ingram fits so well on this defense for 8 weeks, is because he could play literally anywhere at that outside linebacker position and move himself into any gap. The Steelers loved that. Ogunjobi could do the same thing on the defensive line, and the Steelers are going to love that. But it's going to be in very minuscule reps. The counts are not going to be there. It's not going to be, oh, he's playing 20 reps at defensive tackle, 20 reps at defensive end. Most of the time, he's going to be playing defensive end. The rest of the time, he might be playing a little defensive tackle when the Steelers need him to. I would expect the depth chart to look like this. Tyson Alualu starting at nose tackle. Monty Adams behind him. And if they keep a third nose tackle / defensive end, I would expect it to be Henry Mondu. The dude plays phenomenal special teams. Defensive tackle will be Cam Hayward, Isaiah Loudermilk, and then Larry Ogunjobi can throw himself in as that third piece. And then defensive end will be Chris Wormley, Larry Ogunjobi, which both of them are 1A, 1B, and then DeMarvin Leal. It's the perfect mix. And for a team that desperately needed to find defensive line depth the last 2 seasons, this is as good as it gets for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You have 2 really strong developing pieces in Isaiah Loudermilk and DeMarvin Leal. Then you have proven veterans in Tyson Alualu, Cam Hayward, and Larry Ogunjobi, and a dude who has made noise and has proven that he's at least valuable enough to see good playing time in Chris Wormley. Monty Adams is developing into the same role as Wormley, and the Steelers have a good depth chart on the defensive line, the first time in a while. It looks as if somebody goes down, the Steelers are ready to go. Larry Ogunjobi fills that piece perfectly. This was by far the best signing the Steelers have made in a minute. I know they've done a lot of great things this offseason, and somehow they just continue to make good things happen. Shout out to Omar Khan for getting it done and getting it done quick. Shout out to Mike Tomlin for allowing it to happen likely. And shout out to Larry Ogunjobi for staying in a red-hot AFC North kitchen. He just entered a defensive line that's going to be dominant this season. Good for him.